75 euros, so like whatever, 82 bucks or something a night. It's quite quiet. You notice it's on a fairly quiet side street, and it has air conditioning, which is nice. The Piazzale Scipione Borghese, which is the Borghese Gallery and Villa. Scipione Borghese was the nephew of the Pope at that time, which was the early 1600s. And he liked art. So what he did is he used the money and power that he had as cardinal to assemble an incredible collection that makes most museums, probably including the Louvre in some ways, look pretty sad in comparison. His uncle was the Pope, as I said, and this fellow Scipione Borghese was appointed Cardinal Nepoti something or other, which meant that he was a special elevation of cardinal, so like the Secretary of State. That's where we get our term nepotism from, and the Nepoti cardinal state. So he accumulated an incredible collection of Greek, Roman art, and sort of discovered the sculptor Bernini. He had a great fondness for his works of art, and there were several times when someone had one of the work that he wanted. This was usually a bad thing for that person, because the cardinal had enough power that he could find some reason to arrest you and put you in jail, and basically until you agreed to sell or give him whatever he wanted from your collection or something you had done yourself, you would just sit in jail. So sort of extorted works of art from people. And Roman wall just outside of the Villa Borghese. I hadn't seen this before for some reason. It's a little bit further out of the downtown area. You can see the holes in the wall, which means this would have once been covered with marble. And it went around the entire city, of course, in the ancient and then medieval times. Give a closer view of the walls here. See the ramparts up there where the castellations. As seen through a wide-angle lens. These sell for like $80,000 or so. Because I couldn't quite see parking my car here in the street with 2 feet of clearance on each side and get major door dings. I guess that's just part of living in Rome, huh? Here's the smart car, a 2-seater. A flamboyant interior, actually. Car called a Town Life is for sale, should you wish to purchase it. Probably made of fiberglass, and another type of the Trabant, actually. Latte selections here. Tiramisu gelate. I think I can be heard now. That was Piazza della Repubblica, and these are the baths of Diocletian, built in about 200 or so by the Emperor Diocletian. They could bathe 3,000 people at a time, and the baths were a gathering area, not just a place for a bath, literally. The central hall was the size of a football field and 8 stories tall, and was a feat of engineering that was unmatched for 1,000 years, Vic Steve says. And that was just a small part of it, really. The whole thing's about 10 acres in size, actually. And inside of that is a church, which utilizes part of the building of the baths. We'll be going inside it pretty soon. You saw the name and shot a couple of shots. The Rome Underground station, going down the escalator. I bought my little ticket at the tobacconist or newsstand. They have machines that they don't give change this on. Here's the ticket. You put it in the machine when you first ride, and it gets the date and time on there. It's good for 75 minutes on the underground and the buses. That church and see the bath of Diocletian. I've got on the metro here. We're going to see the Roman Forum. You can see some of the ancient paving stones here. That was the Arch of Titus that we're passing. That was built in 70 AD and commemorated Rome's victory over the Jews, basically. We'll see that a bit later. It says on here, Vespasian, I believe Vespasian built this to commemorate Titus's victory, actually. Here inside the arch, you can see that they're celebrating the return or the theft of the Jewish treasures, symbolized by the menorah, along with slaves. And this would have been Titus himself, bringing to victory in the victory parade in the chariot. Unfortunately, someone sort of hacked him away for fun at some point in the 2,000 years since then. This is the top of the arch itself, and you can see there's another image of Titus up here. This eagle symbol.
7 candlesticks on it rather than 8. It's actually based off of that particular image of this.
So the ruins of the Basilica of Constantine. Constantine was about early 300s, and basilicas are actually built as halls of justice. And it just so happens that the churches then used the same construction techniques and overall floor plan because you could house a lot of people in there for worship. Now, this is built for other purposes. Originally it was as long as a football field, and this is where people would come to gather and talk about political matters. Roman Forum that basically has a plastic overlay showing what the structure would have looked like originally. And I'm going to just kind of splice in these segments at the appropriate moments. This is the Basilica of Constantine, as we see it today. This is how it would have looked back then. This is the Vestals, the Vestal Virgins. And you can see they have statues of some of the famous ones. What's left of it here. In the center were these beautiful pond with fountains originally, I'm sure. And every time I come here you can walk around less of this place. I know when I was here in the 70s you could just walk around right against everything in there. Now it's Fairbolton. Rick Steves makes the point that this House of the Vestal Virgins was the model architecturally and sexually for medieval convents and monasteries. You can see the virgins all lived around the central courtyard here. They were kind of shut off from the world around them. And there was a temple right over here to Vesta. And one of the purposes of the Vestal Virgins was to maintain the eternal fire that supposedly had been brought by Romulus and Remus to Rome. And the way it worked was that these virgins were nominated from high-ranking families when they were very young and served a 30-year term. So they started at age 10, and if they reached age 40, then they were honored, were given a large pension, and had one of these statues made for them. However, if they failed to remain virgin, they were strapped to a funeral car, paraded through the streets of the Forum, taken to a crypt, given a loaf of bread and a lamp, and buried alive. So that was strong motivation to do what you're supposed to do. Temple of Vesta, there by the House of the Virgins. Not much left of it now, but it was a round structure you can see with 2 rows of columns, and in the center would have been the eternal flame burning. The Vestal Virgins as we see it today. And here's how it would have looked back then. In fact, it does remind one much of a convent or monastery. In this other location, some detail of the Colosseum. Sometimes when I do videos like this and I talk, I see people kind of looking at me quizzically afterward. I guess they wonder if they should call the men with the giant nets from the booby hatch to come take the psychotic the way he was talking to himself. Quite a view. And just beyond the boundaries of this, there's a major street with people taking a nice stroll. This up here is where you see people walking in modern day Rome.